Hello, my friends. So this is an interesting tale, and I don't think you've ever heard of it happening before, but this person was into Wicca. Their life fell apart for some reason. They got out of a relationship, they got into drugs and drinking, and they found Christ, and suddenly their life changed for the better, and everything turned up sunshine and roses. I don't think this has ever happened before, but stick around.
Stephen Beatty was a self-professed warlock.
The term warlock is being reclaimed by a lot of people. But back when this video was made, chances are this person either was just branching out and trying the word warlock, or he was mislabeling himself.
As a Wiccan, he cast spells and had several dark demonic encounters. His trek to the dark side began in 2001, when his girlfriend had a miscarriage.
That is unfortunate that your wife had a miscarriage. However, miscarriages do happen, so I don't know if it was the result of your beliefs and your practice or if it just happened.
When it didn't work out and the baby was stillborn, I was completely crushed. I had no idea where to go, where to turn. I couldn't think. All I could think about was how badly and how much I wanted this child.
Stephen blamed God for his baby's death.
It pushed me away from God because somebody told me that God had a reason for taking this child. And I thought, I don't want to have any part in a God who will take a child from somebody who wants it.
Partly due to the miscarriage, his relationship with his girlfriend ended. Stephen was totally broken. He turned to drinking and drugs to mask the anger in his soul.
I started getting into cocaine and prescription drugs, painkillers, antidepressants, and stuff like that.
Stephen said he felt like an outcast until he entered the world of Goth.
I think it's very important to make a distinction between people who get into drug use, drinking, the Goth culture, and Wicca or Warlock paganism. Each one of those things are three separate things that this person was involved in.
That's where he met and married Dottie, who had 2 girls from a previous marriage.
They didn't care what I was doing, they didn't care what I looked like, and they didn't care how I acted. I remember wearing 2 to 3 inch spikes around my neck, 3 to 4 inch spikes on my wrist.
Stephen, Dottie, and their Goth friends also participated in intricate role-playing games.
They had different roles like vampires, werewolves, a mage, which was a witch. They had what they called dark angels.
And that opened the door to something even darker.
Oh wait, you know what, never mind.
The occult.
At first, I didn't want anything to do with it, but the more I hung out and the more I was there, I think I started searching for some kind of religious stability because I needed a set of beliefs to live by, and I didn't want to change my life. So Wicca kind of fit the bill at the time.
Wait, hold on a second. So you said you were a warlock, and now you're saying you practiced Wicca. So maybe warlock was a term that you were just sort of using for yourself? But most Wiccans don't identify as a warlock. Now again, I must emphasize that the word warlock is being reclaimed by many people, but people who practice Wicca tend to call themselves just Wiccans.
The Wiccan rituals and spells opened him up to what he calls demonic encounters. One day at his home, Stephen and some friends noticed an object, a knife, moving on its own.
It started spinning, and nobody was touching it. And one of my friends looked at me, he said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yes." And everybody that was in the house left.
No offense, but with all the alcohol and the drugs that you were consuming, are you sure that knife was spinning on its own, or do you think maybe somebody was pushing it, or maybe you just thought the knife was spinning? I have been practicing rituals on my own and with groups of people for many, many years now, and I have never encountered any kind of a demonic force. I have never seen knives spin on their own on the floor. I have had some very amazing results of spell work after the fact, but usually during the circle, very rarely does anything unusual happen.
Months later, he had an encounter he would never forget.
In the dead center of my room, there was a dark figure, just kind of sitting like cross-legged. It was just sitting there looking at me, levitated off the floor. It gives you chills, and it was really scary.
Stephen was terrified when he saw the power of Satan. He knew his life needed to change.
Again, I don't want to discredit you, and I don't know if you're just kind of exaggerating for this television broadcast, but you may have seen that dark figure due to the drugs and the alcohol you were taking in.
Then one day, while attending his stepdaughter's soccer practice, he met another dad, a pastor, who invited him to church.
I said, I'm going to tell you why I don't go to church. I said, I'm a witch. I believe in Wicca. And he looks at me and he says, well, how's that working out for you? And I said, not too good.
This is the funniest thing. You see, any time I've ever encountered, and it's only happened maybe twice in my entire life, where I explained to somebody who was obviously a priest that I followed a separate religion, the conversation usually went something like this. They find out that I don't go to church, and I would say the reason why I don't go to church is because I don't believe in that faith. I have my own faith. And usually the conversation ends at that point. And they may invite me to their church, and I say thank you very much, but no thanks. That's about the extent of it. The second time was when I was actually in a church with my mother because she wanted to go to, what's it called? She wanted to go to Christmas Mass, and so I went with her. But I still had my pentagram necklace, and the priest went by and saw my pentagram necklace, and then afterwards he approached me and talked to me, and I said that I was just there with my mother, and I had no desire to actually join a church or become a member of a church. I was just there to be with my mother.
The pastor gave him a Bible, and Stephen began reading.
It's really funny how he's associating all of these things that are going on in his life, his wife leaving him getting into drugs and alcohol, probably led to a lot of depression, and associating this with his religious choice and not his life choices.
And then on Easter Sunday, he went to church to see his stepdaughter sing in the choir. That was the day his life totally changed.
So his daughter's been singing in the choir for all these years, and he just shows up this one time on Easter?
It was just the music, the songs, and just the message. It was just the way the story of Christ was laid out.
You know, I didn't grow up in a very religious home, and I was never pressured into any kind of Christianity or any religion really. But I still understood the story of Jesus, and I still understand it, know it today. It's very hard for me to believe that this person had never heard of it before, and suddenly he goes into church one time and he hears the story and he's shocked by it and he becomes a Christian. I don't know.
That it really made me understand that I needed Christ in my life and that I was a sinner.
You know, I understand the whole concept of sin and redemption, but I just find it really funny that these people who are born-again Christians who once were into paganism or Wicca or Satanism or whatever, they always say that they were sinners. But the fact is that according to some Christian doctrine, we are all sinners. So it really doesn't matter what background you come from. You could be an atheist, you could be a Buddhist, you could be a Muslim, you could be a Hindu, you could be anything, and you're still a sinner. So it's not like you dropped Wicca because you were a sinner and you became a Christian and now everything is fine. No. It doesn't matter what religion you were, you're automatically a sinner. Even if you're a Christian, you're a sinner. So basically, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Stephen began to pray.
I told God that I knew that I was wrong in the way that I lived, that everything about my life was wrong, and I needed forgiveness, and just wanted Jesus. I just wanted Christ in my heart and in my life.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you actually wanted was you wanted your life to change. You probably wanted to either get back with your wife, or you wanted to find a new girlfriend. You probably wanted to quit drinking so much and taking all those drugs, and you probably wanted a little more happiness and meaning in your life. I don't think you really wanted Jesus in your life. I think that that's what other people wanted for you, but for your own personal health, I think that that was probably a low priority on your list.
It was an overnight change. I had already given up almost everything from my past. I was still drinking, but it was like overnight. I didn't want to drink anymore. My language cleared up. Just the way that I carried myself. It was an overnight change.
So, thank you very much, and blessed be.